What's cracking, peeps? It's Jax. Now, I know the last few videos have been reactions as well, and this is also a reaction video, judging by the title. But the summer of gaming has taken over, and there's just loads of announcements, new games, new DLCs, new everything. And of course, as I tend to do on this channel, is I tend to react to Resident Evil related news and some other stuff, but Resident Evil news. And as we know, the Resident Evil 4 Remake, well, we now have a date for it, which is March next year, but we have a little bit of gameplay and a new trailer thanks to the Capcom presentation showcase. Can you quiet down, Discord? I see you there, Radiswav, because I have a lot of things to say about Resident Evil 4.
Thunder Wonder Roost. I've located Baby Eagle.
Baby Eagle. I do love the darker themes and the darker tone. It needs to go for the scary factor.
Picked the wrong spot to vacation, eh?
Hey, Louise.
You will receive our most sacred body. It begins now.
Is that his voice? Is that Sadler's new voice actor? I would presume maybe not.
If I could just forget what happened that night.
And there's our boy,
Even for a second.
Leon.
This time, it can be different.
He's like that signature jacket. And you can see it. What happened in Resident Evil 2 has changed him.
Resident Evil 4 is set 6 years after the events in Raccoon City, depicted in Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. The main character of the game, Leon S. Kennedy, survived the Raccoon City incident and was assigned as an agent directly under the President of the United States.
Hold on. How have I just completely forgotten about the fact that unless they cut him, they are going to have to put Ramon Salazar into this game. They're going to have to put some guy with the short guy who is God knows how many years old, I forget, with those same eccentricities, calling him Mr. Scott Kennedy. Love that. They've got to put that guy in a remade game. I look forward to seeing Salazar. That's all I'm going to say. Can't wait. That guy was freaking hilarious. Okay, anyway.
States. Leon is dispatched to a quiet village in Europe as part of a mission to rescue the kidnapped daughter of the president.
There's Ada.
You might notice Leon is much more mature and fearless due to his past experiences. The Ganado, the main enemies of this game, wait for him.
I'm curious to see what they do with them.
The experience of being attacked by hordes of crazed Ganado is truly an iconic moment from Resident Evil. In order to truly bring out the concept of terror of people controlled by madness, the Ganado have been completely redesigned.
That's what they've been completely redesigned. I'm curious to know, what does that actually mean? Because don't get me wrong, I love the original Resident Evil 4. It was a great game, but I always hated how it was crazed people when it first came out, it annoyed me because of the shift in the series. Don't get me wrong, the game was gameplay mechanics and stuff, it was much better, and I've talked about that before, but I'm curious to see what they do with the actual Ganados, like your standard zombie enemies. What are they going to do with them that's completely different and redefined? Like, because in the original Resident Evil 4, they just had them with weapons and stuff, and that's what really kind of got me. It was like, oh, he's got an AK on the island, or he's got an RPG, shooting an RPG at me, and that kind of took some of the scariness and the element of horror away from it. So I want to see what they do with them because it's definitely much darker, and that's the tone they're going for, and I'm really glad about that. I'm really glad that they're going for a more darker horror setting than what they had in the original game, which, you know, it was the GameCube, you know. Some bits were scary, and at the time, obviously, it was a bit creepier, but now you just look at it and you kind of just laugh. So I do want to see what they do with them, and I'm very curious about that bit in particular.
Let's take a closer look at the game itself.
Yes, let's.
The over-the-shoulder camera returns, of course.
Of course, love
Leon
that.
arrives at a dense and dangerous forest. We want to nail the feeling of loneliness and fear of not knowing what lies ahead.
See that, that in particular, that looks so much worse than it did before, because before, when you went into the village in Resident Evil 4, you came in during the day, and it didn't feel too bad. Like, you didn't have that feeling of loneliness and fear. You just came in and shot up a village after they started attacking you and stuff like that. So for it to, looks like anyway, this could be completely out of context, but it looks like it's starting at night, or at least in like the evening, where it's slightly darker, or at least the woods. This shot showcases that a bit more
so than the original. Of course.
So that looks
there will also be
creepy.
thrilling battles.
That looks, yeah. I like
People that
where
played
this
the
is going.
recent Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 should find this familiar.
Just on that, I'm curious to know what gets cut. Very curious. Resident Evil 4, one of the longest games. Like in my brain anyway, I feel like it's one of the longest one. 3 separate locations in the village, the castle, and the island. I'm curious to know if maybe they cut the island and then they focus on the village and the castle, or do they cut the castle and do the village and the island? I'm very curious to see, or unless they actually use all 3. Because we got to remember that with Resident Evil 3, the remake, they cut the whole clock tower sequence, which was really lame. Don't get me wrong, there's probably certain smaller elements here and there that they could cut and it wouldn't be as noticeable, but there is a vast array of different bosses, like mini bosses and enemies in the original Resident Evil 4, so it's curious to see what ones stay in the game, which ones get cut, and what new ones they add to it. They got to keep the regenerators in. They were scary at that time. Couldn't handle the regenerators.
Information on the game.
Thank you. Okay, well there we go. There it is. Resident Evil 4, the 24th of March next year. Can't wait. I will be buying that. I will be playing that whole playthrough. I can't wait. Hopefully I will have got round to doing all of my Resident Evil theory videos. I'm currently doing Resident Evil 2. I'm still writing the script, so I'm still doing that. So don't worry, guys. I haven't stopped making explained videos. But yeah, I am excited to see it. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Code Veronica as well, and I hope that if they ever do that, they do that as much justice as they did Resident Evil 2. I get the feeling that I think this will be on par with the Resident Evil 2 remake. I really do. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Obviously going to play it because I love Resident Evil. Yeah, let me know which Resident Evil game is your favourite. For me, it's still the Resident Evil 1 remake on the GameCube. I love that game. And despite the controls, I will maintain my love for that game and see if it ever gets the remake treatment. I don't think it will. I think it's a remake of a remake, so I don't know if they would do that. Maybe in 20 years. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, hit the like button for me, guys, because it really, really does help me out. And if you are new here, do feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and check out some of the other videos I've got going on, because you never know, you just might like them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.